This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
And welcome everybody to episode 64 of the Animanicast.
Today, I want to try a little group session, and so I've invited one of my other patients to join us.
Who is it? One of those cute little Olsen twins?
No, but it is a fellow Warner Brothers employee.
Your other patient is here, Doctor.
Very well, send her in. Now, she may be shy and bashful and unwilling to chit-chat, so please be polite, okie dokies?
Okie dokies.
Oh, where is my little doggone baby?
Elmyra!
And welcome once again to another episode of the Animanicast. We are the only podcast out there that's dedicated to the animated series, Animaniacs. Here we explore the series, episode by episode, exploring all of the cultural references and gags that we can find. And in the end, we give each episode a water tower rating. I am Joey, and joining me once again from Los Angeles is my brother Nathan.
Well, I'm the Warner hugger and kisser and squeezer into itty-bitty pieces.
And over in Georgia, it's Kelly.
This episode had Jurassic Park in it.
Yes, it did. It was very Spielbergian. Well, today's episode is episode 64 of Animaniacs and includes a lot of filler. And the two major segments, Look at the Fuzzy Heads and No Face Like Home. Guys, in a few words, if you're someone to ask you about this episode, what would you tell them? Nathan.
I feel stuffed from all the filler.
And Kelly, what about you?
It makes me want to go see Jurassic Park again.
Yes, in the theater and everything. Yes, I did see it when it came out in 3D. Did you see it when it came out in 3D and everything a few years ago?
Please. Who are you talking to?
Yeah, I thought so.
Of course I did.
Yeah, and of course you did catch E.T., right, when it was out recently?
Actually, I missed E.T. because of Dragon Con. But I did go see Close Encounters.
There you go. Okay, so...
Yeah, it was just a really... They came like right about Labor Day, right around that same time, and I was like, I just don't have time to watch E.T.
It's the tragic.
I have to record podcasts every week. Like, who has time to watch E.T.?
I know, exactly.
No, I'd never seen Close Encounters in the theater, so that was amazing. And there was even this little like Spielberg featurette at the beginning, right before the movie. So there were tears. And I'd seen E.T. I think it was the first movie I ever saw in the theater. So I have seen it on the big screen, and it made a huge impact. I mean, I pretty much credit that with why I'm obsessed with Steven Spielberg.
Okay. Well, yes, today I'm glad we got a little sprinkling of Spielberg in there for us. So, yes.
Yeah, a little sprinkle. Spielberg's always good.
Well, today's episode has, like I said, those two major segments. Look at the Fuzzy Heads, No Face Like Home. Lots of filler, which we're going to get to those different pieces, in chunks, I suppose, because otherwise it just gets a little too confusing for everything. But before we get all to that, Nathan, can you please tell us, when did this episode first premiere?
Okay, so Joey, this first premiered on Monday, May 16th of 1994, which was the same week that the movie Western Maverick was released, and All for One's song I Swear replaced R. Kelly's Bumping Grind for the #1 spot in the Hot 100, and former First Lady Jackie O passes away from cancer at age 64, and the final episode of L.A. Law airs after 8 years of run.
Wow. Gosh, she was only 64? I felt like she was so, older than that. I don't know.
Right?
I don't know. The song's Bumping Grind and everything. Oh my gosh. What was the '1 song again? It was
I Swear.
I Swear. Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Good old 90s music.
90s had the best music.
It really does. I have Amazon what is it called? Amazon Prime Unlimited or whatever like that, There's just, and there's like a station or two just of nothing but 90s. I will just put that on there and just, it's just relaxing just hearing all this, and some of it is really silly, in retrospect, but it's so good. It's so good. Well, anyway, let's get right into today's episode here. First of all, we're going to start off with we're going to discuss a few Randy Beaman segments.
Hey, this is Colin, voice of Randy Beaman's pal from Animaniacs, and you're listening to the Animanicast.
Okay, bye.
So, in the first Randy Beaman segment that starts off today's episode, first thing is Colin comes out and he tells us about a story about the time Randy Beaman ate a bologna sandwich. I believe this was at the cafeteria, I think he was saying, right?
Then Jason made this gross noise, and Randy Beaman laughed so hard, bologna came out his nose.
That has got to be, number one, it's gross. Number two, that's got to be painful right there for poor Randy Beaman to have bologna coming out his nose. But anyway, one thing I noticed about this, guys, I don't know if you noticed it as well, I was kind of creeped out at the fact that Colin turns his head, and he has this every now and then. He'll turn his head for a profile, and he just looks so different, versus when he's looking straight ahead versus his profile. Do you guys notice that too, or is it just me?
I didn't notice it.
I mean, he looks like Colin.
I don't know. To me, he you know what? He actually does. He actually, I think he must have been modeled after actually Colin Wells when he was a kid, because he actually does resemble Colin a little bit. I've seen, from the pictures and videos and stuff I've seen of Colin when he was actually on Saturday Night Live and everything. I'm like, it kind of does look like Colin on Animaniacs. But his face, he just has such a different, his nose looks different and everything. I don't know. Next time you guys are watching it, check it out, because he turns to walk away and he has this just different profile. It doesn't seem like it matches his face straight on, but maybe that's just me. Whatever. Anyway, if you guys didn't notice, it must just be me. So anyway, well, the second Randy Beaman segment that we have is one where Colin is playing with his toy airplane, and I think it breaks. Poor guy. But he's talking about Randy Beaman's family's party and having bean dip at the party.
Randy Beaman's family had this party with food and stuff, and they had like this bean dip for the chips, and everybody ate it and said it was really good, only it wasn't bean dip, it was a mistake, it was really dog food. Okay, bye.
And that's gross, and that can't be true. That seems like a story totally that would be made up by a kid. But who knows?
I mean, at least it tasted good.
Yeah. Hey, but it definitely didn't taste like bean dip. You got to wonder, like, how many bites in did people think, like, this doesn't taste like bean dip, but whatever.
I mean, as long like they said it tasted good, so I'd be fine with that.
You'd be fine with eating dog food as long as it tasted good? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like, dogs can eat people food. Why can't people eat dog food? I mean,
if you like eating horse, then yeah, I mean.
Aww.
I'm just saying. Well, you can send your cans of dog food to Nathan, care of the Animanicast.
Only if it tastes good.
Send your best tasting dog food to the Animanicast. Okay, well, guys, those are our two Randy Beaman segments for today. Which of those two Randy Beaman segments do you think is the funniest? If you were to say, like, this one's better than the other one, Kelly, what do you think?
I thought the bologna out of the nose was the funnier one.
Nathan, what about you?
I agree. Bologna out the nose. Bologna's just a funny word in general, so.
Bologna is our friendly friend.
See?
Yeah, that we meet him up ourselves. Yes. You know what? I got almost a draw, but I'm going to go with you guys. I guess the bologna, just because I actually thought that I was watching the episode from across the room, and I actually thought it was much grosser the first time I listened to the bean dip one. I thought he said it was dog poo. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh.
And then it was like, oh, dog food. I was like, oh, okay. It's at least not as gross, but my goodness, I was shocked for a second. I was like, they got away with that?
Shocked and scandalized.
Yes. Well, yes. So there's the Randy Beaman segments for today. One more filler to start off today's episode, and that, of course, is Nathan's favorite segment.
Newsreel of the Stars.
Woohoo!
And of course, today we got not only do we get Newsreel of the Stars, but this is the extended version, once again, of Newsreel of the Stars. There's not much to say about this because we've talked about it so many different times. And I don't know if we've mentioned it before, guys, but how old is Ralph? I mean, he puts them away in the water tower in 1930, and he still looks the same. So he's either A, really old, or B, maybe that was his dad. Maybe his dad worked at the over there too, perhaps, right?
That's what I assumed. It was his dad.
Okay. We're very interested in the timeline all of a sudden right now at Animaniacs. So anyway, anything to say about that? I like this version more, I suppose, than the shorter version.
Yeah, the extended version I'd rather see, I guess, but also I would rather see an actual cartoon that I haven't seen before.
Yeah. And I did notice it didn't go. If I have to see Newsreel of the Stars, I want it to go right into the tower right at the end, not do the bump at the end or whatever. It didn't do that, and I was like, oh gosh, they really were trying to pad out for every second in this one to try to fill in as much as possible, but whatever. So before the first cartoon, we had also a transition as well, which is the Warners and are trying to get away from Ralph, and they jump into one of those little rockets that you can find outside of grocery stores. This was the pick and slave instead of a pick and save, which I don't even know if they have pick and saves anymore in the country. But anyway, they get into the rocket ship and they dump in a ton of quarters, and the rocket takes off because apparently that's what happens. You dump about $50 worth of quarters and you can take off. So just heads up for all you kids out there. And so they take off, and then Ralph gets on the horse that's next to it. In order to get it to move, he puts a carrot in front of the horse, and the horse takes off. And it almost becomes like in Return of the Jedi, where, there are two speeder bikes right next to each other for a little bit, and he's trying to jump or grab.
Oh, that's what it made me think of.
Okay, yeah, it was just like, this looks familiar to me. So it was a little bit like that, but I'm sure they were not trying to reference it, but that's what it looked like to me. Anyway, he tries to grab.
Well, everything looks like Star Wars to me.
Yeah, so. Exactly. So anyway, he tries to grab the Warners, and out of nowhere, in the middle of the road, there's a wall, and they hit
right?
And they hit the wall. The Warners rocket ship hits the wall, but they're able to jump off the rocket ship just in time to jump over the wall. And of course, Ralph just hits the wall. But yeah, that was very weird to have like a major street with a wall that's just at the end of it. So not a very, I don't know who the city planner is in Burbank, but apparently there's walls everywhere in the middle of the road. So just be careful out there in California, Nathan, when you're driving around Burbank.
No wonder the traffic's so bad.
I know, they've got to get these walls off the. Anyway, guys, any thoughts about this transition right here before we move on to the first cartoon?
I thought Ralph was pretty smart using a carrot stick. It's cheaper than a bunch of quarters, probably.
That's very true. The animation was good.
Cute.
Yeah, the animation was good too, I thought, right? I mean, it's always, these transitions are always good animation. I want to say it was Wang Animation that did these, but I don't know for certain. I'll leave that to the actual experts out there, not to the casual viewer like myself. But anyway, it's a nice segment. So let's move on to Look at the Fuzzy Heads. Look at the Fuzzy Heads was written by Peter Hastings, and it was directed by Barry Caldwell and Dave Marshall. And Kelly, tell us what happens in Look at the Fuzzy Heads.
The Warner siblings are Dr. Scratchansniff, and he's being their pea psychiatrist, and he brings Elmyra in to join them. And for once, the Warners sort of have met their match, and they're terrified of her and run away. Because she's Dr. Scratchansniff gets out what does he call Mr. Puppet Head?
Yes.
And uses that to try to talk to everybody. And Elmyra loves Mr. Puppet Head, and Wacko knocks him on the head with a mallet with his puppet. And Elmyra tries to, kiss him and make him bed there and hug him and squeeze him. And then she picks him up, and she's like, no one's there. And
I got a woogie on my noggin.
Oh, don't worry, Mr. Puppethead. I'll take care of you with a great big huggy poo. I'm gonna make you all better and love you and kiss you and be nurse with a sick little woogie noggin.
Oh, the humanity.
There, all better. Mr. Puppethead, what happened? Nobody's home.
There's an understatement.
So they go back to their tower to try to hide from her, and she's right there. Dun, dun, dun. Riding in the train, and they try to run away from her again, and then they go hiding under Ralph, and she finds them, and then they see Buttons and Mindy, and so they use a little toy dog to lure Mindy outside the yard, and Buttons is about to go off and follow her, and Yakko is like, it's all taken care of, don't worry about it. And so he gives Buttons a day off. It's really nice. And she goes into a anvil factory, and Elmyra is just, oh, little girl, and she's so excited and chasing her, and then an anvil lands on her head. And she's just like she is in Tiny Toons, where she hugs and squeezes and kisses everything and likes cuddly animals and babies, and just terrifies the Warners. And so yeah, she gets an anvil dropped on her head.
Yeah,
and
I think the whole building at the end, like some building in the distance, she goes all the way into the distance, and then an entire building collapses on her.
Yeah, and Buttons claps.
Yes, that's right. Buttons was very happy about the situation.
Wait, no, I forgot the best part.
Okay,
Yeah,
best part.
I was wondering about that.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, the best part is they follow her into, or she follows them into a movie theater. And the movie on the screen is Jurassic Park.
That's right.
And there's a dinosaur, and there's the Jeep or Explorer. And it kind of bothers me a little bit, just because I'm me. But it's Ellie and Grant in the car, and Ellie's screaming, and it really should be like Malcolm and Muldoon, but
well, it's technically not Jurassic Park, it's Jurassic Picnic, so it's okay.
Well, okay. I'll let that one slide.
It was Jurassic 1.5. It was like, the deleted scenes, perhaps, right?
Yeah.
Oh, look at the big dino head. You're cute. I'm gonna bathe you and powder you and teach you how to go on the paper. Oops.
But I really they really captured that scene. Or the visuals of the movie pretty well. I don't know if y'all noticed, but at one point the dinosaur kind of leans down, and you kind of see the eye, and it reminded me of when the T-Rex peers down and the kids are in the vehicle, and you just kind of see the eye lit up by the flashlight. And anyway, I was thinking way too serious about it, and really appreciating the artistry of this parody of Jurassic Park. And so yeah, that was exciting. I think when this came out, I'd have to double check the dates, but I don't think Jurassic Park was even out on video yet.
No, so I put out on one of our previous episodes, I think it was the episode where we talked about video review, and I actually found the original audio of like a commercial about coming to VHS now for the first time. Yeah, I think you're right. I still don't think it was out on so VHS
any tiny little, bit of Jurassic Park I could get in that time period, because it was out of the theaters, I think, and I couldn't watch it, and I was getting like the shakes.
Just rent the videos. they would cost like $100 or more or something like that for the tape. And then eventually they went down to, $40 or sometimes $25, but even that's back in the 90s money, gosh, it's kind of crazy how the things have gotten cheaper. So now we go to the $5 bin at Walmart and we can get the DVDs that we want anyway. Well, so that is today's first segment right there. Look at the fuzzy heads. A lot of funny stuff, and some references right here. I mean, the first one they mentioned like a Warner Brothers employee is going to be joining us, and they said, "What is it? The cute Olsen twins, who have got to be billionaires, I believe now, even though they haven't done anything for many years."
I think they're in. At least one of them, I think, is in fashion or something.
Yeah, I think they just invested their money and just did other stuff with it. And boy, oh boy, they became successful after that. But anyway, there's also when they go up to the multiplex, Nathan was mentioning it's the Jurassic Picnic, and the other film that was at the multiplex was The Last Arnold Film, and that's got to be a parody of Last Action Hero, which had come out in the early 90s, which I've never seen. I just remember.
I haven't either. It wasn't Jake Lloyd in it?
It wasn't Jake Lloyd. It was a kid that kind of looked like Jonathan Taylor Thomas, but I don't think was Jonathan Taylor. No, that's Jingle All the Way. You're thinking of Jingle.
Okay, I knew it was
my hit film, Jingle All the Way. Anyway.
Sorry.
Anyway.
I haven't seen either one of them.
Yeah. I think I've seen like 5 minutes of Jingle All the Way, just enough to go, okay, that's a bad movie. I'm going to move on. But anyway, so Last Action Hero, I remember that came out. That was like so over budget, and perhaps people did think that was going to be the last Arnold film. I don't know, but he's obviously continued to make stuff even after being governor, which is crazy. Anyway, sitting behind the Warners in the movie are Norman Bates from the Boyd's episode, and I think he was in Broadcast Nuisance as well. So he's in there. And then the Renona Ryder's character from Skullhead Bony Hands is apparently in the.
I thought that was her.
Yeah, she's in the theater as well. So they're reusing some of those character models and stuff, which is always a nice little Easter egg. The other really obscure kind of thing, at least for me, was the Petticoat Junction reference that Elmyra gives.
That was a close one. That was a weird one.
All aboard! Woo-woo! We're gonna play Petticoat Junction.
She sings this song, which as a kid, I had no idea what she was singing, but for some reason it would still get in my head because I thought it was so hilarious. Nathan, I know you never watched Petticoat Junction, right?
Nope.
Kelly, have you ever seen an episode of Petticoat Junction at all? Nope. I neither have I, because it was never on Nick at Night growing up. So, but I did watch the theme song this morning to see like, okay, what the heck are they talking about with Petticoat Junction? And there is a character named Uncle Joe, and in the theme song it says
Petticoat Junction.
And that's Uncle Joe, he's a moving kind of slow at the junction. Petticoat Junction.
And Elmyra, of course, turned it into her variation, which is insane.
Oh, I'm Uncle Joe, and the moving kind of slow.
And then she says something which I'm assuming is a Petticoat Junction reference. And listeners, if you do know anything about Petticoat Junction, you can write to us and let me know. But she says,
"Come back! I got some taffy!"
I'm assuming that's a Petticoat Junction reference. Nathan, I called our dad today to see if even he knew what that was about. And he basically said, no, I never watched Petticoat Junction because back in the 60s, CBS had a bunch of shows that were really bad. And he went and he listed off, they had Petticoat Junction and Gilligan's Island and all these other shows that were really lame. And you know, if he was, you know, gosh, it must have been in his, you know, teens, 20s. And yeah, he was in his teens and 20s and stuff in the 60s. And he said, you know, they were like so uncool that it was kind of cool to watch them because of the irony of watching it. But
oh my goodness.
Yeah, but he said then one day CBS just canceled all of those shows and just started putting on smarter shows in the 70s, like Bob Newhart and All in the Family, as if to say, why are we doing these sitcoms kind of stuff, like Gilligan's Island and Petticoat Junction and stuff like that. So yeah, I just thought I had an interesting conversation about sitcoms with my dad, but no idea what Kathy was all about. Other than that, I mean, obviously it was just kind of cool to see. If listeners, if you don't know who Elmyra is, she was from Tiny Toon Adventures, and she's hilarious, and you should watch Tiny Toon Adventures episodes, because Elmyra was always one of my favorite characters on that show. I don't know about you guys, but I always loved episodes with Elmyra.
She annoyed me in a funny way.
She kind of reminded me of our sister, Nathan. I don't know. She reminded... Because she just kind of she does kind of have a kind of a weird personality, and as a kid, you know, our sister was very much kind of like, hey, woo. No, I don't know. You wanted her. It's kind of like your sister, like you want her to go away, like stop it, go away. And it was kind of the same thing with Elmyra with the characters, like, oh my gosh, she's so annoying, go away. And so I just had that kind of feeling, like I can relate to that. Yeah, my sister can kind of be annoying sometimes. Anyway,
I sort of mimic her when I'm hugging Indiana. Sometimes Indiana's my dog, for those who don't know, because we named the dog Indiana.
We named the dog Indiana.
I love that. But I'll hug him. I'll hug you and squeeze you and kiss you, and I'll do that just because I annoy him. So.
Well, what made you laugh in this first segment, Nathan?
I liked, of course, the puppet, Mr. Puppethead, and I liked seeing Elmyra.
Yeah. The moment you mentioned Kelly with the puppet, like nobody's home, that just makes me laugh every time when she just looks at the audience.
But yeah, it was just a lot of fun seeing Jurassic Park. I mean, we've mentioned pretty much everything. And then, of course, that twist ending, it was a very fun cameo of having Mindy and Buttons at the end. Yeah,
and for Buttons to actually have, actually everything go well for Buttons at the end. We can assume that Mindy was fine, because like I said before, Mindy's always fine. Just let her do her thing. She will come back eventually, and you won't get hurt. And this is the first time, and only time, that Buttons actually just let it happen.
I was really happy for him.
Yeah.
I liked when Elmyra got hit with that anvil and...
Look out, girly head! Hey, come back here, you little messiness.
And I thought the puppets, even the animation of the puppets, were really cute when the Warner siblings had, each of their own, and just thought they were cute. I wanted to hug them and squeeze them and kiss them.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Mr. Puppethead.
Is there something you kiddies would like to share with Mr. Puppethead?
Nope. Not me. I'd like to share.
Good. What?
This naughty puppet.
Wacko's puppet is kind of like looking up at him. I just thought that was just the cutest little thing. I don't know. It's just a very funny first cartoon. So before we go on to the next cartoon featuring Slappy Squirrel, we're going to talk about the other group of filler that we have in this episode. And we had not one, but two Dot's Poetry Corners. The first Dot Poetry Corner is Dot talking about Old King Cole.
Old King Cole. Old King Cole was a merry old soul, and a merry old soul was he. He called for his pipe, and he called for his bowl, and he called information for numbers he could have easily looked up in the phone book. Thank you.
I thought this thing was totally pretty antiquated by today's terms, because I don't even know the last time I've actually looked in a phone book to look at a number. Now it's always, Siri, give me the number for whatever, and, that's how you find the number. The other one that we have is Dot's Poetry Corner on Beans, the musical fruit.
Ode to a veggie. Beans, the musical fruit. The more you eat, the more they kick you off the air if you finish this poem. Thank you.
Now, the weird thing about this one is not just the fact that she's, doing the thing and, talk about network sensors, which is cute, but She calls it ode to a veggie and yet calls it a fruit. What? Anyway.
It's a legume.
It's exactly. It's neither one. Thank you, Nathan. It's a legume. Beans are not veggies nor fruit. They are legumes.
But like in the song, it is beans, musical fruit.
Yes.
So
should be ode to a legume, really, or shouldn't it be?
The musical legume. The more you eat, the more you poem.
So close to a rhyme, but not. It just failed at the last second. Oh well.
Sorry.
Well, out of these two Dots Poetry Corners, guys, which one's your favorite? Kelly, which one do you like more?
I think I like the Yellow Pages one better.
Yeah. And Nathan?
I like the beans.
The beans one? I like the beans one too, just because I just like for some reason that one's gotten into my head. When I think Dots Poetry Corners, that particular one is one of the first ones I think of. And I'm not exactly sure why, because I've heard that tune multiple times throughout my lifetime. And I now associate it with Dot for this reason, not for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I like how it's there's kind of a bean theme at the very end, because they have that and then the Randy Beaman bean dip.
Oh, there you go. You got some right sort of... The theme of beans is very good in this episode. Okay, so excellent. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into our next cartoon. And it, of course, is called No Face Like Home. No Face Like Home was written by John P. McCann, and it was directed by Rusty Mills. And Nathan, can you tell us, please, what happens in No Face Like Home?
All right. So Skippy is visiting his aunt in Beverly Hills Plastic Surgery Clinic and Country Club. Slappy is getting plastic surgery. She wants to look younger so that she can fix the cartoons, and they only hire attractive people in cartoons nowadays. So she goes under by watching an Alan Alda video, and she's out like a light, and her doctor goes to scrub up, but then Walter Wolf comes in and knocks him out with an anvil and puts on some sudsing germs, and then decides to mess up Slappy's face. But Slappy, unbeknownst to Walter Wolf, is still conscious. So every time Walter Wolf tries to do something, Slappy foils it and hurts Walter Wolf, and to the point where Walter Wolf gets knocked unconscious and then gets thrown into plastic surgery, and then comes out looking kind of like Hello Nurse, I guess. And Slappy decides she doesn't need plastic surgery after all. The end.
The end. It was edutainment.
Yes.
Well, this particular cartoon was kind of making fun of a few different things. After school specials, for one. The whole plastic surgery, thing that, of course, actresses, have to get. Even to this day, it's kind of ridiculous how you can have like just like a beautiful woman, and then they get plastic surgery to stay pretty or to look pretty, and they come out looking not good. So like that secretary who says, "I'm pretty."
Wow, your skin's so tight you could bounce quarters off it.
I'm pretty. Now what do you want?
I was like, oh boy. Anyway, there's a reference right here to a Wilford Brimley reference to Cocoon, which I totally missed. Did you?
I did not.
Okay.
I got it right away.
I'm going to transform into a butterfly. Or Wilford Brimley, whichever comes out of a cocoon.
I've never seen Cocoon, so that's probably why it went over my head, I suppose.
Bits of it. I remember when it came out. I always paid special attention to Wilford Brimley because he was in the Ewoks Battle for Endor movie.
Yes.
So I knew him from when I was a little kid.
I guess the only other little reference, if you missed it, you blinked and missed it, there was a Minerva mink on the cover of the Hollywood Schmooze, I think is what it was, or something like that. The magazine that Slappy was going over. And really the only other thing I think they were really kind of making fun of, which I thought was kind of cool, was educational cartoons where this really lame cartoon about deforestation is going on.
Haha! I love chopping down virgin timber.
Gee-hee. Hey, Wolverine Lou. Hurting trees is wrong. Gee-hee.
Gosh, Robin, no one ever told me. I will stop now and go help someone in need.
I really like how John McCann in this one was making fun of those types of cartoons and how lame those can be. I don't know, like, I know Captain Planet was around this time, and I just hated the cartoon Captain Planet. It was the most boring cartoon, and then there was always cartoons like, the Care Bears and
I
stuff.
love Care Bears.
Well, I did as a little kid, and then it just didn't. You can't rewatch it though. You know what I mean? It doesn't. You kind of like, I watched the Care Bears movie a few times as a kid, and I loved it, and then I just hated it after a while. I don't know. I like how this particular cartoon made fun of other cartoons. It made me wonder about voice actors. How, yeah, it's a job and you're getting paid for it, but gosh, there has to be so many scripts sometimes where you're reading it and you're going, what the heck am I saying? And number two, this is horrible, but you know what I mean? I don't know, but it's a job.
I was sort of surprised they got away with saying the word virgin.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess I never thought of it that way.
Context, it was fine.
Yeah.
It's just not something you see in cartoons a lot.
That's very true. They also mentioned after school specials a lot. I don't know. They did have after school specials. I know when we were growing up, Kelly, did you ever watch any of those? I think they were on ABC when I would come home.
Yeah.
But I'd never watched any.
Sometimes because I wanted to, and sometimes because school made us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do remember one or two where, you have to, it was movie. Oh, we get to watch a movie in class. And it was Scott Baio, or something like that, like the dangers of drugs. And it was just a lame story. But anyway.
They worked all that kind of stuff. I don't know why we don't have that nowadays, really, because, they were good messages, even if they were corny. But even, like, the cartoons of the era, because when I went back and watched Jim and the Holograms, there was a whole episode about drug use and how it was bad. And, they sort of taught a lesson without getting too preachy. And there was a lot of that buried in early 80s. And maybe up to late 80s kind of stuff. It
stuck in your head, though. You know what I mean? Like, whether it was a cartoon that was teaching you about don't do drugs, and it just made it part of the plot, or even sitcoms. Like, I still remember to this day, and I discuss it all the time with my wife, the episode of Punky Brewster where her friend gets locked into a refrigerator. And
oh my gosh,
do you remember this?
I love Punky Brewster. Yes.
Okay. Do you remember that episode? Okay, because I remember this, and I remember as a kid going, where do they have fridge? This is like some problem that I'm sure there have been kids that have, unfortunately, there have been kids that have died from going into a fridge and then getting locked in there. But I've never, this is not a problem in my neighborhood. I just remember this episode of, oh my gosh, don't go inside the refrigerator. You could get locked in.
Punky Brewster dealt with some real life issues, man.
Really did. It was crazy. Anyway, yeah, Punky Brewster. My goodness.
I love that show.
Anyway, Punky. Anyway, no, that's not it. I can't do it. Hang on, I can do it. Punky.
Oh,
there we are. Punky. Anyway. Nathan, any particular things in this one that stood out for you that you thought was funny?
I liked all the golfing references they made, that doctors are constantly golfing.
The doctors were golfing a lot in this place. They were doing a lot more golfing than, well, at least they were multitasking, right? They could have.
Yeah.
They were trying to do it in between calls.
Are you here for plastic surgery or golf? There's a wait on golf.
Do it in the hospital.
Yeah, and there was some fun little Jay Leno face that Slappy made.
Yeah,
it was nice. And did Jerry Lewis do a thing like that?
I'm assuming that Jerry Lewis did a bit like that, although I don't know exactly what she's referring to. Again, listeners, if you know exactly what movie that it happens to be from.
Jerry Lewis, eat your heart out.
It's like the jokes on this episode particularly are being written for for adults. And not that the humor is like risque or anything necessarily. It's just that this is a joke like Alan Alda movies. It's like,
all right, Miss Squirrel. Just relax and watch the monitor. I'm going to show you scenes from Alan Alda movies. You'll be out in no time.
Couldn't you just hit me on the head with a hammer?
Now, you just watch Mr. Alda while I go wash up.
I mean, what do we really know about people? About men, women? I'm puzzled. Being in a relationship is like walking the tightrope of life.
You know, you really got the idea, like we're watching this episode, that they didn't care about, kids will get this, Alan Alda movies, or this Jerry Lewis bit, like they didn't care. They just did it because it was funny. And that's one of the things I love about Animaniacs is just do it because it's funny. And we as the writing team or the voice actors think it's funny. So let's do it. I just think that's genius. I love that. Kelly, anything from this that you thought was humorous?
Well, we've already mentioned the cocoon reference, which I thought was very subtle, but I liked it. I thought that was funny. It was just, it was sort of a different Slappy. She was not in the tree and just interesting with the golfing, which, you've already covered it all.
Yeah, and some good commentary on plastic surgery in general, and just some social commentary, I suppose, right there. And Walter Wolf looked pretty good at the end. He looked like Hello Nurse as a wolf, which was kind of weird and creepy, but it's this nice little twist. They did very good plastic surgery on Walter Wolf, I gotta say.
Yeah, seriously,
it's very good.
My face! I'm ruined. What will the other villains say?
Very impressive. Well,
it was quick too.
Yeah, they get you in and out of that place real quick. So
no bandages, nothing. Like it's very impressive.
Well, it's different when you're a cartoon character. They can just use an eraser and just draw on top of you, and then you're all good again. So there we are.
Now that's edutainment.
Well, let's go ahead and close things up. Before we do, we have the Wheel of Morality.
It's that time again.
Oh no, not the Wheel of Morality.
Afraid so. It's time to learn the moral of today's story.
No!
And this is the extended Wheel of Morality once again. So, in case you didn't know, that not only is it filler, but we're going to take this, we got to stretch this filler out even more. So they get a little extra running in there. And they have this discussion in this episode, this particular Wheel of Morality, I should say, about what's the purpose of Wheel of Morality? It's stupid. Oh, who came up with this idea? It's the executives at Fox Kids. Oh, we love it. So I thought that was a cute little conversation. The moral itself was kind of lame, even by Wheel of Morality standards of rinse, lather, repeat, or lather, rinse, repeat, especially because we've seen it as a ending tower joke a few times. So I'm like, hey, we've already, come on, go. So I wish it was something different, but other than that, I thought it was pretty good. What do you guys think about this Wheel of Morality here?
I thought it was too familiar. There was nothing new about it, so I wasn't impressed.
I thought we'd seen that one before.
Yeah, I thought they already complained about the maybe it's just me. They already have
Okay. Yeah, they already complained. They already did. Like, it was all stuff we've seen before. I don't think they said lather, rinse, repeat before, except in the stinger or whatever.
So it is totally repeating stuff. Okay, so
there's nothing new about it. So
and then we got the lather, rinse, repeat, which is a repeat. Okay, so it's repeats in different order, but in still repeat. Anyway, well, there we go. Let's go ahead and get to our water tower rating. Well, what do you guys think? Out of 5 water towers, how many water towers would you give today's episode? Kelly, let's start with you.
I will give it 4.
Okay.
It was super funny, and Jurassic Park.
And Nathan, what about you?
I'm gonna give it 3.5. The 2 segments were both really good, except there was just too much filler. So a little bit off of that, and a newsreel for the start. So yeah, 3.5.
Okay, and I'll give 4 as well. You know what? Quite frankly, I was just about to give it 4.5 out of 5 until you guys pointed out the Wheel of Morality was just, a complete repeat stuff right there. I'm like, oh gosh. And then Newsreel of the Stars. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna knock it down a half Water Tower. I'm sorry, episode, but you're still a great episode. It's still a very funny episode, and even the filler was good. It was just maybe just a little too much filler, right? You just have the. It's like you have your main courses, and then they give you too many appetizers, in between, and you're just like, whoa, too many things on the side, please, just the main course. Anyway, well, that's our Water Tower rating. Let's go ahead and get to our poll results from. Well, it wasn't even last week. It was a little while ago because we had our interview with Tom Ruger last week. The last time we had a poll was a couple of weeks ago, and the poll was, which of these Katie Kaboom cartoons is your favorite? #Animaniacs, #Animanicast poll. So the 3 choices were Katie Kaboo, Driving Lesson, and Call Waiting. Call Waiting was at the bottom, 12%. Driving Lesson was 38%. But Katie Kaboo won. It was 50% of the vote. I'm going to go with Nathan first. Which of those 3 Katie Kabooms is your favorite?
I voted for Katie Kaboo because Chicken Boo's in it.
Me too. Although I did like Driving Lesson, I did like the first one. Just it's Chicken Boo. And Kelly, we all know that Katie Kaboom is your favorite segment. So this must have been a hard vote for you to really go between them.
Yeah, I like Katie Kaboo too because I do like Chicken Boo. Yeah,
it is. It's just a nice little thing. It's just the idea that somebody could be so. It makes sense, that Katie would be just upset about their boyfriend and everything. Anyway. Okay, so those were our thoughts on the Katie Kaboom episodes, but we have a brand new poll for this week. And Nathan, what is the poll?
So, as we all know, Animaniacs is no longer on Netflix for syndication. Yeah. So the question is, where do we want Animaniacs to run syndication now? Or something like that. You'll figure out how to write that.
I will.
The choices are back to Netflix, or we can go to Hulu, or we could do Amazon Prime, or maybe just back on TV on some station, some WB or something, back on syndication there.
You want the WB network to come back? And then
bring back WB network, and then bring back Animaniacs. Easy.
Hey, that sounds like the most likely thing to happen, I believe, right? And while you're at it, put the Warner Brothers stores back in the malls, and anyway. I think we were more likely to get a time machine than to work than that to happen.
Put it on Cartoon Network then, or something.
Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, yeah. Boomerang, even. I think that's even Boomerang will work. Well, anyway,
sure. And
TV. Well, you can head on over to twitter.com/Animanicast, or simply search on Twitter for #Animanicast poll, and you can make your voice heard on that. And who knows, maybe it might just happen. Who knows? Well, let's go ahead and get over to our contact information. Kelly, where can people get in contact with you?
They can find me on Twitter at Yoda Princess, YODAPRNCSS, or email me, kelly@bigshinyrobot.com.
And Nathan, what about you?
I'm in LA, folks, if you're in the area. But if you're not, you can try finding me on Twitter. Django FT, that's me.
All right. And as for the Animanicast, we are on Twitter. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. And you can always email us at animanicast@retrozap.com. Hey, wait a minute. Speaking of retrozap.com, you should head on over there. You know why? Because every day there's something going on over there. It is insane. There's tons of fantastic articles to read. And there's also fantastic podcasts that you should be listening to as well. such as the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast, ArgCast, Beltway Banthas, Brews and Blasters, Classic Marvel Star Wars Comics, The Deucecast Movie Show, Dork Lair, Dunecast, Green Justice and Arrow podcast, Kanata's Castle, The Sandcrawler podcast, Scarlet Velocity, a Flash podcast, Skywalking Through Neverland, Starships, Sabers, and Scoundrels, Talking Apes TV, Techno Retro Dads, Terrigan Dreams, The Trade Federation, Warp Trails, and We Know Nothing. My goodness, the podcast network at RetroZap is huge right now, so lots of different franchises for you to check it out. And in fact, one of the easiest ways to listen to every one of those podcasts is to simply go onto Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts and simply subscribe to the RetroZap feed. You can get every single one of those podcasts delivered straight to your device, and you can listen at your leisure. It's fantastic. By the way, you can also go to Animanicast.com and see a full listing of our previous shows, as well as subscribing to us on whatever podcast thing you have, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, whatever. You use it, subscribe, enjoy, leave us a review on iTunes. There's so many different things you can do. I'm very demanding of our audience, but you should do it all. So, with all that in mind, for Nathan and Kelly, this is Joey saying, good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
This podcast is not endorsed by Warner Brothers or Amblin Entertainment and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Animaniacs, the Warner Brothers logo, all names, pictures, and sounds of the Animaniacs characters or any other Animaniacs-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Warner Brothers, Amblin Entertainment, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of the Animanicast unless otherwise indicated.
I love a happy ending.
Sometimes I just love when it ends.